We are live.
Well,
Awesome. Okay. So let's set the intention just to come together and really have compassion for one another as we move through the material that we're learning, and doing our best to just have a bigger picture understanding of our purpose here and existence. So yeah, to seek to understand each other, lift each other up, encourage and support. No criticism, only love. Let's go around and see what were your thoughts about your overall thoughts on this chapter.
Yeah. This was a big chunk. There was a lot of words. And I needed him to simplify it. Like it's I know it's his style of writing. It's the way his amazing brain works. But boy, I wish there'd be like a little summary paragraph at the end.
Yes.
You know. Anyway, but so I'm looking for clarity. Go ahead. Anybody else?
I'm there with Maureen. I think he was saying things over and over and over again, and there were certain parts. Yeah, you just said that like 2 pages ago. Like, come on. And I was thinking maybe Vanessa could send him an email, ask him like for the whole book, just give us the Coles Note version of this.
Yeah. But you know, I think there's probably, because his brain is he's just got such a monster brain, that I think that he's making finer points and I'm probably missing them, because he's sort of, he repeats himself, but he's probably making finer points that I'm not appreciating. That was my conclusion.
When I was reading, I thought, okay, well, this is addressed to the left-brained people, right? So he wants to reiterate it over and over again just to make sure that the left-brained people get it.
Oh, thank you for that, because I know I'm right-brained. Yeah, thank you.
Christine, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was really tough. Like, I actually ended up skipping over a couple of pages near the end. I just couldn't get through it. And I wrote down, I feel like a clam, right? Like, I just felt like my, kind of like what you were talking about, Maureen, like my level of comprehension was getting smaller, right? As I got, and I felt like I had a sense that, yes, he's probably making very, probably really elegant and specific points, but I didn't get it. So I did skip to the end, which I loved the last 2 pages were awesome. So that I understood.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And then Nadine, how about yourself?
Yeah, I had all the experiences that everybody shared. I don't think I got it. I think, and I couldn't actually. I skipped like Christine a few pages, and I loved the last 2-3 pages. So I skipped a few because I guess I was getting frustrated. But, and then all of a sudden I remember something that I think you, Vanessa, said, unless I heard it in one of Tom's video. I don't remember. But what came to my mind, he said, don't worry if, this is, you don't get it or something like that. Try to go with the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was reassuring for me. And then I don't know about you guys, but for me, he kept repeating the same thing. And then I said, well, okay, what he's trying to kind of convey here, or what I understood, and I'm really, looking forward to hear what you did get from him, is that the 2 fundamental, principle, which is consciousness and the evolution, are really tied up, and they cannot happen without free will, and vice versa. So that's at the end of the day where I said, you know what, I'm going to take Tom's advice, because I was getting a little bit, well, what's happening here with me? I thought I was left brain, but then, this was way beyond my left brain. So I said, you know what, maybe that's all that I need to get out of this. Now I know he had so many subtle, explanation and details, and this is way above me right now. Maybe one day, but not right now. But I said, okay, maybe I do not understand the connection that he's trying to make at another level. But I get it that we need to have free will in order of this whole thing to make sense, right? So that's my take on it.
Me too.
Okay, good. I don't know if it's like this for the rest of you, but is everybody frozen for you? Because on my computer, you're all frozen.
Nope, we're good.
No,
No.
no.
Huh. I
You
can
are
hear
not
you.
frozen, Vanessa. You are not frozen.
I wonder why you've been frozen for the last like 3 minutes.
Oh.
We need a
Yeah.
larger consciousness system. Yes.
Daniel, should I log out and log back in, you think?
Sure, if you like.
Yeah, I want to see you guys. Like you're like Martin, you're like this. Let me just log out. Hold on one second. You guys talk about yourselves. I'll just check in. Meeting.
Okay, now everyone just stay still.
Yeah. No, be. Yeah. Yeah, he repeated himself a lot.
I happened to read a Viktor Frankl quote while I was reading that chapter, and I was happy because I think he summarized it. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In it lies our growth and our freedom.
Yes.
So I thought, oh, he's summarizing our free will here, you know, our choices. And that's exactly what Tom was saying. But I agree with you, Maureen, that there are probably a lot of subtleties that I'm not getting, that he's trying to explain how this whole thing really works in the more. Oh, here's Vanessa.
Hi. Now you're unfrozen. So
Okay, good.
Okay.
all animated. So yeah, I'm the same. I echo the ladies in the house. I know Daniel, you loved it, but I fell asleep twice. Once on the airplane, and then last night in my bed I dozed off, and I was like, oh, I gotta finish this chapter, man. I know that before he started that long aside, he said, for all you right-brainers, you can just skip right past this aside.
Yes.
I was gonna message you guys and say, can we just skip past the aside because it's way too left brain and technical for me. But I'm glad that at least we've read it and now we have a little taste of it. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Cole's notes, I think basically what he's saying is, Nadine, you said it, is that, you know, the fundamental, what's fundamental is consciousness exists and evolution, right? And in order, the whole purpose is to evolve consciousness. But consciousness can only evolve if it has free will. They go together, free will and consciousness. And so he was getting into, well, there's philosophical debates about whether or not free will exists. But I think here, like, no, obviously free will exists. You know, I'm here, I make choices, it exists. So yeah, we kind of didn't need to go into that, but we're doing it anyway. From the first page. I like this. Oh, go ahead.
The second paragraph goes, we have established that OM has feelings, however, without fear, ego, and delusion. OM's feelings are not at all like ours. Right? But it doesn't really talk about what is OM's feelings. Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like?
Well, he does in the next sentence. If we replace our fear and ego with love, humility, and compassion, we begin to look and act like distant relatives of
So he's saying it's just love?
Yeah.
Well, I think we get closer.
Love, humility, and compassion. That's what he said.
Yeah.
And I love that last line too, where he says, we're just chips from the old en bloc, sharing a single continuous awareness with the source of all consciousness. That's being one with, you know, you hear it in spiritual communities, being one with everything or one with the universe. You know, that feeling. And I think probably all of us have tasted that in meditation too, right?
Yeah.
but he's definitely helping us with the humility part. Sorry. Because, reading that chapter, that's what you just kind of be, okay,
Yeah.
have some
Yeah.
humility here. Yeah.
It's so reassuring knowing that you guys are reading it too, though. So I'm like, I wonder how they're doing.
That's what I was kind of wondering all along. How are you guys, doing?
Well, Vanessa, do you remember last week you said, actually, sort of when we were closing, can't we just skip this chapter? And I'm thinking, why?
Now you know why.
Yep. Yeah.
But I think the question that I remain with is, why? And I guess that's what he was answering that I didn't get. Why is free will has I understand it, but I don't know if I understand it.
What are you trying to ask?
In depth, right?
Why does consciousness need to have free will to exist?
Yeah, because I'm sure this whole chapter is about explaining this. I didn't get it, but I think it makes sense. But for me, it's on a superficial level. It makes sense, right? We have to be able to choose. But that's it for me. It doesn't go any deeper. I'm sure he has deeper meaning for it.
I think as being conscious, having consciousness, we have the main reason for the LCS is to grow, and it's using us as individual units of conscious to allow that growth, and the free will allows us to create choices that makes us grow, and he talks about making choices that are profitable, and only the profitable choices that we make grows the larger consciousness system. Anything that is not profitable dies.
And we learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
An old boss used to say to me, "You don't learn nothing on a straight road."
True. You don't.
Yeah.
So Nadine, so for you, you're saying that you're not sure really why free will has to exist?
I kind of understand it, but I understand it intuitively, and that's good enough. It's just that I guess one day I want to understand it the way he explained it in the chapter. That's what I'm saying. But right now, I'm quite happy with the intuitive sense that. But how if we all the time made the right choices? Like if we were wired to always make right choices, would have been like the consciousness will kind of, the evolution will be even faster?
Well, I don't think so. When I hear if we were wired to make the right choices, for me, that sounds like determinism. Because we always have to make this choice. But in order to, Maureen was saying, in order to learn, we have to have kind of a windy road so that we go this way. We're like, oh, shouldn't have went that way. I'm going to choose differently. And then we learn to choose another avenue, right? So we have to have the ability to make mistakes in order to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's deterministic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think it's like learning from mistakes. You know that not to go down that path again, but you have that memory to teach you in the future that, oh, I've been here before. I know that if I went this way, it's the wrong path. So let's choose a different path.
And some of us do it again anyway.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah. I think, and that's because our awareness isn't as strong as it can be.
Yeah.
It's
right.
like
Right.
Yeah, or for me, I'm not a techie, so if I'm trying to play something and I just keep pushing the same button over and over again, I'm like, why?
Harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, the definition.
No, I think sometimes you have to go through the same path and make the same mistakes over and over
Until you get.
I think Daniel, you said it, until you really become aware of what is going on, and then you can make another choice. But if you're not aware, it becomes a conditioning or a pattern that you repeat, right? And that's when you are trapped in whatever it is, whether it's fear or a belief or whatever, because you're not aware that this is a trap, actually. So until you are, you cannot change what you are doing, right?
Yeah, that
So we
fear.
keep on doing the same thing, going the same, like the wrong path, right?
Because that fear or that belief system or that, you know, how we perceive something that keeps us going down that path until we realize, well, you know, this keeps hurting. I have to do something differently. Why do I keep doing this? Then we start to grow, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, right? So that's what he's saying.
It's like Einstein's definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
That was a good
I've
one.
never done that.
That is a good
That's
one.
why I'm divorced and single, right? Because okay. I had highlighted the next paragraph. I need to see why. And then I put beside it, this is how the free will awareness unit interprets the data system. So, did anybody else look at that paragraph and highlight anything?
Yeah, I did. You know what? I have a question. Is there a like a list of definitions in here somewhere?
It's at the beginning of the
For
book.
the acronym?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's at the beginning of the book, is it not?
Yep.
It is page 37, or at least in the trilogy. Okay.
Yep. Page 37. Yep.
Oh, and I have it marked too. Okay. Yes, Vanessa. I also had some things highlighted from that third paragraph down. Our nervous system sends, it's kind of in the middle. Our nervous system sends certain types and patterns of signals representing collected sensory data to the brain, which interprets these patterns to create perceived physical reality.
Yeah.
You know why I actually really liked that is how I feel like I've heard conversations about what pattern matching is, and that has have you guys heard about any of that? Like you're looking for patterns, and that was interesting to me. Patterns in like your past experiences, like, oh, I've actually experienced this before,
Deja
right?
vu. Yeah.
What's that?
Deja vu.
Deja vu, yeah. Or even like just saying, oh, I've actually done this before, so I have a reference point as to how to respond, right?
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, no, I liked that. I liked how he talked about the non-physical mind, because I always wonder, like, what is the mind exactly, you know? And a non-physical mind is equally as mysterious, right, as just a regular mind. But I did like that.
And where are you? I missed some stuff trying to find where you are.
Maureen, I'm on the third paragraph.
Third paragraph.
Yeah.
Third
on
sentence.
page 410?
The first page.
Oh, the first page. I'm sorry.
The third sentence of the third paragraph. Our nervous system.
Got it. I turned the page already.
Yeah, I like that as well. He says the non-physical mind receives. So when I hear the non-physical mind, I'm now imaging my IUOC, right? My individuated unit of consciousness, right? I'm seeing that, and then I'm seeing it receiving the data stream from this PMR reality experience. And then I'm seeing it, he says here, the brain's experience limited interpretation of the signals. Okay, so the non-physical mind receives the PMR reality experience. Oh, so it goes through, okay. So basically, the data stream, this is something I really wanted to understand from Tom, and I asked him one time on a fireside chat. I said, how does the IUOC pick up the data stream? How does it interpret that data stream? And then he said, it just logs on. I was like, oh.
Okay.
But now he's explaining it here, so I see why he didn't get into all the details, because it's pretty heavy.
Yeah,
It's
pretty heavy.
It is, yeah.
So it's almost like the non-physical mind is, say, looking through a camera, right? Of your virtual reality, right? It's sort of your non-physical, your NPMR is looking through a camera lens through your PMR and seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Poor thing. Yeah.
and I like how I use the camera, because I was watching there's all these Bruce Lipton videos, and he's using the camera as an analogy, and in the camera he says there's filters.
Mm-hmm.
And if we throw these filters in there, we only see things that we believe or are allowed to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that sort of clouds everything else that's out there. There's tons of things that we can have and can touch, or whatever it is that we want, we just can't see it. But it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then the mind applies its unique knowledge and quality, right?
Yeah.
To produce a response that expresses its intent in terms of internal and external action, right? So that's the third part of it. Then our mind applies its unique knowledge.
Yeah. So that's the quality of our consciousness, right? So that's like our soul. And that's why babies come in and they're so different, because they have this quality of consciousness and they interpret things differently based on their knowledge and their quality of consciousness.
So basically, we see what we want to see. That's another way to say it. You know?
Yeah.
We interpret and we see the reality as we want to see it, right? Because
that's why you have two people standing side by side, looking at a specific picture, wherever it is.
Yeah.
See two different things.
And they see different things. Exactly. Yeah. So that's. So I just have a question. It comes back to, like, when he's talking about those people that want to understand, the technical people, and he goes on and on. Is he talking about physicists, or who is he talking about when he said, "Oh, I know those people. They need to understand. I need to go technical." So who is this audience? I'm just trying to who is this audience he was trying to kind of cater to? Because he felt that it hasn't been to. So what are we talking about? Who are we talking about?
Like mathematicians, physicists, anybody really left brain.
Yeah.
I think it's the people who are left brain that says, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, but I just said, okay, you double check this.
So moving on to, sorry, go ahead.
It is interesting that the whole book, like I'm kind of assuming that everybody here identifies as right-brained, right?
I'm left brain.
You're left brain, are you, Daniel? But
I'm slowly moving closer to the middle, though.
That's interesting. But you're a coach, aren't you? A coach?
I am a coach, and I used to think a lot. I used to be very analytical and study people's behaviors and like that. Now I just sort of let that go and says, okay, how do you feel about the situation instead of how do you think about it?
It's really interesting. It's just interesting that we kind of, who's reading the book, but it's really geared for, left brain people, which most of us don't identify like that,
Yeah.
Well, I'm confused because for me, left brain is not just mathematician and science people. I consider myself left brain, not totally, but in part because I analyze and overthink, and I like that kind of, what he talks about, the processing part of the brain, right? You take something, you cut it and you analyze it. So I thought that was part of left brain too, right? It's not just
I think it is
people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting experience to read the book, because I feel like I almost I think I probably would have identified as right brain. Like I feel like I'm both, like you, Maureen, right? are there not special, but people who identify as both attracted to this particular material?
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like this material has taken care and is taking care of my left brain in order to set my right brain free. Now that I understand it logically, now I can focus more on my intuition. I don't have to try to figure it all out because now I see it. I see the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That was nice.
Yeah. I just wanted, I know it's a big chapter, so I just want to move on to page 2.
Yeah.
And at the top of page 2, he just continues on that he had started, where he says, thus, it is a value-based, non-physical consciousness with knowledge, memory, fear, ego, understanding, intent, motivation, purpose, and individual quality that determines what the brain sends back down the communication link to guide the body in transforming the mind's intent into a state of being that is in direct response to the original sensory data.
Yeah.
I like the next part too, where he says, in this simplified model, he says, the brain serves as a transducer and a constraining filter between the physical and the non-physical components of the being. So a transducer is just something that converts energy from one form to another, right? So that's what the brain's doing. It's converting the energy from the physical to the non-physical.
Mm-hmm. It's just it's like the medium, the way how your physical matter reality is communicating with the non-physical matter reality through the brain, which is the mind and the consciousness.
Yeah, the constraint. Yeah.
And the limitations of our brain.
And the limitations, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's through this communication where it's being filtered. And allows us through, when it's being filtered, I guess it goes through our brain, into our physical matter reality, and that we only do things based on what knowledge we have, right? Our experiences.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I tell a very quick story
about
this? So I have a very dear friend who's dealing with a serious late stage cancer, and she really in the last week was convinced she was dying, and her body was just failing rapidly. And then she had 2 visions one night, and it saw the light, but there was a fence in front of it, right? And she realized, oh, there's a fence in front of it.
What I found on the web for
quiet. There's a fence in front of it, right? And so that was like a message from God for her, and she has completely made a complete turnaround in a matter of a few days.
Wow.
Completely at peace, completely knowing I'll be fine, whatever, and her body is just responding. So here her limitations were dictating, I'm dying any minute now. I'm out of here. Then she gets this vision, and it just opened up, right? And completely physiologically, her body just completely changed direction. Cool.
Yeah. Cool. I truly believe that the body has all it's needed, all the stuff to feel yourself. It's just allowing it to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's belief. She didn't believe. Now she believes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Further on down on the second paragraph, the middle part of the second paragraph, I have this highlighted. It says, your projected character represents the total accumulated quality of your consciousness, employing only a fragment of your individuated consciousness energy.
Yeah.
So that is just saying, like, we haven't realized our potential at all, not even a tiny aspect of it. We're playing really small right now.
Yeah.
I think that's because of our beliefs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It holds us back from experiencing all this stuff.
Yeah, we're not allowing it. It's a little bit like your friend Maureen, right? When you allow it, if you're not allowing it,
Mm-hmm.
it's a tiny, tiny bit fragment.
I love that quote from The Wizard of Oz where the fairy godmother is like, "My darling, you've had the power all along."
Yeah.
We just
Mm-hmm.
forget.
Hmm. It's all about really what you believe, right?
I guess this last sentence in that same paragraph. Additionally, there may be random components occasionally thrown into this complex mix to make sure that our free will always has such sufficiently rich area of possibilities to choose from in order to facilitate optimal evolution in learning. So it may throw a bit of a wrench in our system, but those become learning opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
And when we can see it that way and interpret it that way, the opportunities become a lot more fun and joyful.
Yes.
And, not so hard and like disappointing, depressing.
Yeah. You don't blame people for things, and you ask yourself, "What did I learn here?" Right?
Yeah. But
anger and bitterness goes away when we're willing to, if we're feel like we're being dealt a bad hand. Anger and bitterness goes away when we start to take personal responsibility for the place we're in.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the key, just taking responsibility, right? Being accountable rather than blaming everybody.
But sometimes it's also not to take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Not to take stuff so seriously. Because sometimes, that leads us to a small picture, right? If to live in how does he call it? The little picture, right? Because you take it so seriously and you take yourself seriously. So sometimes it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another saying that says life is too important to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true though, and I find myself doing it too. Probably, what was it, just this morning when I was walking to the lodge, I was thinking about something and I was just overthinking something and I'm like, dude, lighten up. I'm like, this is your little fragment, this is just small history. Like, let it go. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Just, remembering the purpose,
Yeah, I found myself this week doing that too. It's good to stop and just kind of so you can shift, right? And get out of this, as if this is the most important things right now, and it's not really.
Oh, it's not.
Most of the time, it's not.
Never. It never is. In the big picture, it's not important at all. Our little dramas here in this virtual reality.
I know, and I catch myself doing that. You catch yourself and you say, well, this is ridiculous. Why am I annoyed by this or whatever? But I still do it. But then when I catch myself, it just kind of you snap out of it, right?
That's great that we're catching ourselves, right? And then the more we catch ourselves, then pretty soon we realize we're not even doing it anymore. There's nothing to catch anymore because
that's part of the 7 levels of awareness, right? Get to the point where you don't even have to worry about it. It doesn't come to you because you're.
Yeah.
It's becomes habitual.
Yeah. That's right.
I'm laughing.
The next paragraph, 2/3 of it down, I love the what he says about personal growth. Personal growth requires us to use our limited awareness to improve our understanding of what is important and to use our free will to improve the quality of our choices.
For sure.
I really love that.
It requires us to use our limited awareness to improve our understanding. Yeah, well, that's what we were talking about, right? Yeah. In other words, right?
Exactly, and then to use
It's not snap out of it, or it's like more.
That's our free will. Now we're making a conscious choice, like, oh wait, I'm in my little picture again. I'm going to choose not to be in my little picture and see the bigger picture and snap out of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes on and says, growing up and decreasing the entropy of our consciousness obviously requires far more than simply acquiring, storing, and processing knowledge. Being conscious, we have the innate ability to modify ourselves, to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the free will comes in. We need that free will to be able to choose and then modify.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I had the following paragraph highlighted: improving the quality and reducing the entropy of your consciousness, spiritual growth, is more than an intellectual exercise. The intellect, which is processing, memory, analytic function, can make no significant progress by itself. One needs the proper reactant residing within a supportive environment before the nudge of a catalyst can move the process forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that reminds me of a quote of Brené Brown when she said, "What we know is important." I think I'm trying to recall. What we know, which is like the intellect, is important, but who we are is more important.
Yeah.
And I think, this is a simple way to put it, but I think that's what he's saying here. You're not going to improve the quality of your consciousness just but what you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because since I was a teenager, I've been saying I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, but I don't actually live that. Like, that's just something I say intellectually.
Yeah, exactly. So it's words. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's when it really gets into who you are that's your consciousness. Move forward. So I think, but of course, the way he says it is not as clear as Brené Brown.
Not as simple. Yeah.
It's not as simple, right? Yeah. Has
anyone watched the video that he made on how to, like, tips for reading his book?
No.
30 minutes.
No, I haven't. I think I wanted to, and then I missed that. But Vanessa, if you can put it back on maybe Slack, because it's so hard to find stuff on WhatsApp.
Put it on Slack. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. Maybe that will help us for another chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Did he say to skip pages?
Well, he said it in the book. He said, just skip this aside. If you guys already know it intuitively, just skip right past this. You don't need to read it.
That's what we did. No choice.
Yeah, exactly. So we can kind of breeze through the aside when we get there. But one thing he did say in that video is that repetition is key. And also touching upon, following up with what you were saying, Nadine, is that, you don't grow by just having thoughts. You don't grow at the intellectual level. It has to go and sink down into the being level, into your consciousness. Who you actually are needs to change, not just your thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that the way to do that is through repetition. So the more and more you hear it, the more and more you understand it, the more it sinks into you at that being level. And he says that's why with his book, he's so repetitive, because he'll touch on something, he'll keep bringing it back. And then, by the end of the book, you've read one concept 20 times scattered throughout the book. So he's hoping that's going to sink into your being level.
Yeah, there's a saying that we only learn through repetition or impact. So repetition, or smacked in the face by something that really hits us hard, and we have to, really reassess everything. Then we learn in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like what happened to your friend. That was a huge impact. And now she's changed everything.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what he means by repetition, but you can repeat and repeat on the intellectual level, and you're not going to change on the being level unless you gain awareness of what you need to change, or what you need, like you know, it's like what you were saying about being a spiritual being in a human body. You can repeat that forever, but until you get the awareness of what it really means and you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, so it's not just repetition of the words or the concept in your head. That's what I mean. If you don't get awareness, you're going to repeat the same stuff that you are doing, right? So,
You're right.
so I think there is repetition, but you have to have a sense of awareness.
Yeah, and with that too, I think repetition and understanding, right? Repetition and understanding of it, because yeah, I would say that a lot, but I mean, did I really understand it? No, I don't think so. I don't think I completely understood that I'm consciousness,
Right.
and that we're all consciousness, and we're all connected. The point of this is to evolve and grow through lowering entropy. I didn't get that piece. I understood that but I think because I would say we're spiritual beings, I think it was kind of just a belief because I didn't understand it. I didn't really know it. But now that I'm understanding it, I'm knowing it, I can move past the intellect and sink it into the
And
being.
feel it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think that we are making a personal choice, which is taking responsibility to grow. How can I grow? Where is my limited perspective? We're reading this book. We're probably all doing many things to try and be wherever we're trying to get to, but we're taking personal responsibility. So if you just stay in your intellect and you don't question until it hurts enough, if something happens and it hurts enough, finally your attention is captured and you think, well, I don't want to do that. That hurts too much, right? And then you start looking, and that's the act of taking personal responsibility. So we are actively taking personal responsibility to do this, to read,
Definitely.
to log through these pages, to try and understand what he's saying, to to challenge each other and talk, and we're taking personal responsibility. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When that is so true, Maureen. When I told someone the other day that we had a book club that meets every week, she said, "Wow! Usually, book club meets once a month. How do you guys?" And I said, "Oh, well, we have a very motivated bunch of people." So she laughed. But then, I realized that what you're saying, Maureen, it's really true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys think this, but it's like, I feel like that's, I found so much benefit to reading the book slowly and talk, because it's like almost not every single day, but almost every single day there's some type of interaction or thought process about this material, right? And so it's just really slowly sinking in, right? Even when we have a chapter like this, it's like you're still kind of you're still sort of just part of you're in the material, for a long. I feel like doing this book club. I mean, I've been following Tom's stuff for years, 6 years, right? And I understand it more in the past 8 weeks than I did for 6 years, because of this sort of like constant analysis or exposure to it, and consistent too.
And I have personal responsibility to everybody, to read it and think about it and try and understand it and try and have something to contribute as well, which is helping me.
Right. And I think the other way we're learning is because we all have our own unique minds and all, but we have our own perspectives. By sharing what our perspectives are, you're able to hear what I'm saying and bring it in and allow your perspective, your consciousness to grow even bigger than what it was before.
And when I listen to it back, I hear so much more.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Oh,
You did that, Maureen? You did listen to the tape, to the recording? It's amazing how different it is, eh?
Yes. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking, and I might really truly miss something. And I'm listening to it. Whoa, I didn't hear him say that. I didn't hear her say that. Yeah, it's really instructive for me.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh, for me too, every time. It's totally different, and the insights are really different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
On the
I
same
agree.
page,
Everything.
I highlighted that was I mean, biological. I think it is one, two, the third, no, the fourth paragraph. The three sentences at the end. Biological evolution merely provides the stage, props, and setting for facilitating consciousness evolution. Conscious evolution is the main act. Yet we spend lifetime dedicated to nothing more than rearranging the stage props. I mean, that I laugh because that's exactly what we are saying. You know, oh my goodness, our little picture every day is the same thing. That's what we're doing. We every day we are rearranging the stage.
The stage. He has a
And
great
so
sense of humor.
after I read that, I happened to be in the mall, and there was, the Santa Claus, set up.
Yeah.
And then here it is. That's the greatest prop of all. That we set up, and it's all part of it, right? But it just makes you see things differently when you read it, and the way he wrote it. I appreciated that.
Yeah, he's got a great.
I like the next sentence. He says, perhaps we should call the PMR Theater of the Blind.
Exactly. That was like the conclusion of the whole thing. Yeah, that was great. So now when I think about the little picture, I see the stage, with props, and it's just kind of.
Yeah, that whole paragraph is funny.
It helps
Sorry,
you
hot monkey.
an image, right?
Planet of the Idiots.
Yeah,
The
playing all
theater
significant
of
roles by himself.
Yeah, I like that too. I had that highlighted. I said materialism at its finest. That's what it is. And we're so locked into this materialistic PMR reality, we don't see anything else. We don't acknowledge anything else.
Yeah.
That's becomes the main
And
focus.
is that why Tom, like when he does his meditation, he likes being in the NPMR versus the PMR? I remember him saying that when he does his meditation or when he's out of body, he loves spending more time in the NPMR than the
did he?
PMR.
Oh.
I'm not sure if you guys remember that or not.
No, I don't remember him saying that. No, I know that he's always constantly parallel processing. So, but I think for him, it's just that's become a habit now. He gets more information, right? So he can understand others better by parallel processing and picking up what their consciousness truly, what their consciousness truly is trying to say. The intent behind their words, because so often we have words, but we don't even really know ourselves very well.
We don't know what they mean, right?
What's that?
So we really don't know what these words mean for us. We just say them because we hear from other people and we utilize it. We utilize that language.
And language is so limiting.
Yes.
So for him, he's always going into the big picture to retrieve data and information from your consciousness so you can get a better understanding.
Right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Vanessa, when you said that he spent his time or sometime in the non-physical, so does that mean that he is just connecting with the largest consciousness? Like what does that refer to? That he is like parallel in another. So is he more logged into the largest conscious system? Like, I guess for me, I'm trying to understand what he means by that. I'm not sure I quite know.
Yeah, I would say it's that he's hyper intuitive. Is kind of the layman's way to look at it. But when I asked him about getting information from the LCS, I asked him about a specific time. Remember, Daniel, when we were all sitting at the dinner table and we saw him like go off into like another, he was just kind of like, he went off into another place. You could tell that he was parallel processing. And we were all speculating and wondering like, whoa, what was he doing there? What was happening? So I asked him about that and I'm like, yeah, what happened there? What kind of information were you getting? And then he's like, oh, I get downloads like every 5 seconds. so I don't remember, you know? So he's constantly in communication with the LCS. And as we all can be as well. We can all get information from the LCS when we exercise that ability to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I think the more time you spend there, it becomes a second home. You can travel there very quickly, very easily. So
Yeah.
there's some people that have been doing that for a long time.
Mhm.
I'm not there yet, but
Me neither.
Mhm. Exactly. It's like meditation. It's the same thing, right? Can go more quickly with practice.
Yeah. So the very last line on that page, when he says, our physical reality, our perceptual experience, and the physical evolution of our species and our universe is an extremely small part of a much bigger evolutionary drama.
Yes.
And in brackets I put, don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of what we've all been saying, right? It's
Yeah.
not about drama. There's so much more.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how it just puts it into perspective like that.
I have. Yeah.
and
I highlighted the same thing. But I mean, until that paragraph, everything was fine. It's after that that it starts getting. It starts getting ooh.
if you go down to the second paragraph after that final sentence that carried over from the last page, where it starts with many individuals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Many individuals find the existence of free will to be so intuitively obvious that they do not understand what the fuss is all about. That these more right-brained individuals have somehow managed to intuit the correct answer without going through a rigorous intellectual exercise may be the result of fortuitous cultural belief, or if they are more like you, the result of highly intelligent and accurate observation, brilliant deductive reasoning. I don't know if all that is true, but that's how I feel. That's when I read that sentence, I said, yeah, sort of, I'm very right-brained. And so I would be like reading this, slogging through this very difficult part of the chapter and go, well, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, in other words, you know, like I it could have been said for me in a couple of sentences. The point it was, because I recognized it and had experienced it, right? So that's, I went, yeah, that's how I feel sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. That's why he went on to say you may want to skip to the end of this rather lengthy aside, right? And
no, I think it's valuable to go through it. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I could have skipped it. I ended up highlighting a few parts. So did you guys have anything else from that page?
Nope.
Next page.
Right in the very middle of that page, feedback from previous choices encourages us to modify consciousness quality and refocus our intent, thereby influencing subsequent choices.
Yeah.
And I underline that because I think that is rings really true for me. Like I was having a conversation about a situation that I really learned from, right? And this next time, maybe I would handle something a little bit differently, So yeah, feedback seems to be very important, right? And just sort of the awareness of it is valuable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I sometimes, when I'm working with patients, I'm often, they often see the growth that they need to accomplish as impossible. How am I going to change that so that I can get better? How am I going to change that? And I try and make it real simple by saying, okay, there's 3 stages to it. It's just like when a child is learning to be potty trained. The child comes to you in the first stage and says, Mom, when you've talked and talked and talked, so now the awareness has grown for that child. The child comes and says, Mommy, I've gone, right? Then as you talk more and the more awareness, so I'm making the point to my patient, and eventually you'll get to the stage where the child is saying, I'm going. There's awareness of, I'm going. And then you can only change behavior when you get to that place where the child says, I have to go. right? And then you've got that second to make a different choice. But it takes staying aware, repetition, staying conscious, right? So, they go away thinking, well, if a child can do it, I can do it. Anyway, but that's true. We realize after we've done something, we've done it again for the second, for the 1,000th time. And then we can see ourselves as we're doing it. Here I am, I'm doing it again. And then it's only when we get to that place where we think, oh, I'm just about to do it again. No, I don't think I will. That's the growth place. That's that space that we talk about that somebody mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
In Friday's meeting last week, I was talking about unconscious incompetence. Those are 4 levels there. So unconscious incompetence.
Say it again.
Unconscious incompetence.
Yes.
These are things that you don't know about and you're not aware. And then you have, let's see if I can get this right, conscious incompetence, which are things you're aware of, but you don't know how it works.
Right.
And you have conscious competence. These are things that you know about and you know how it works. And then you have unconscious competence. These are things that you're aware of and you don't have to worry about how it works because it's second nature.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so like breathing, it's unconscious competence, right? But in order to say for meditation, you have to bring that level back to conscious competence because you want to learn how to breathe in a certain way, right?
Yes.
And the area where you learn is when you're in the conscious competence stage.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's a different way to look at it.
So So there's like levels and everything, and in terms of learning, where are you in terms of this?
Yeah.
Where in the 4 quadrants are you?
That is interesting. But I find there are different learning when, when Christine, you were saying, well, I learned something and then, I can change it I find that if I'm learning a fact, if it's only on the intellectual level, it's easy. I don't know how it maybe, I don't know if it takes many repetition because it's a fact, okay, this works like this or it doesn't work, but it gets harder and I think will show more resistance if it's an emotional change. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to say, well, no, you think this is black, this is not black, this is white. Oh, okay, from now on, I'll say this is white. I mean, it's evident, it's a fact, and it's just on an intellectual level that you're knowing and getting feedback to change what you were thinking, let's say. But when it's an emotional issue, like what Maureen, what you were saying, it's not like that because you are offering some resistance, and then you have to go through steps, to learn again or to unlearn, basically. So feedback, you might need it once if it's something easy for you, and you might need it many, many times. That's like referring to the sentence that feedback from previous choices encourages us to modify consciousness quality, right? And refocus our intent to influence subsequent choices. But the number of time you need to get that feedback might be different on depending on what we are talking about. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a closed loop system, right? Because you do something, then you sort of ask yourself, okay, is this good or bad, right? So it goes around, and this is, if it's good, then, is there a way to improve it? So you have to go through the process again, look for a more profitable way of doing things.
Right.
Profitable.
Yeah. I have I guess a practical example. I'm trying to feel like, okay, what's my intent for sharing this? And or not. I don't, let me feel, what's my intent for sharing? Well, I guess I'm just listening to Tom's advice. When I asked him, because in the beginning of this book club, I was a little apprehensive because I'm like, well, now we're going to be intellectualizing everything. I know the change needs to come at the being level, so is it even really worth having a book club? And he's like, absolutely it is. He's like, if you come from your personal perspectives and you each share how you're applying this and how you understand it personally, that's important. Because then you can get all these different, look, now we have 5 different personal perspectives that give us a much bigger picture. So I think I'm aligning with that by sharing, and I haven't shared this with anybody yet, but I can see how it aligns with the intellect. I have this idea of the intellect, but I know it's not at the being level. So in terms of, it matters of the heart, right? At the feeling, at the being level. I feel a certain way, but I know intellectually that it's not about me. Love is not about me. Love is about others. So if I'm drawn to, and I am drawn to a male guy right now, and I know that I need to be in a place where I make it about him, and I want the best for him, no matter what that looks like. If it means that he's not with me, then I want to be happy for him, seeing him being happy with someone else. But I feel that I'm like, yeah, but I'm not quite there. Like I kind of
hard, yeah.
You know?
That's
yeah,
a hard.
yeah. It's a good example of like something at the intellect. I know love is about other, and I should just be happy for him. But at the being level, I still have that ego and that need and that desire to want him to myself. You know what I mean?
You've been told that love is about other, right? Do you feel like it's like something that's been presented to us? And it does make sense, right? But that is hard to, it's like I was like, just do it, you know, like it's like make it so easy, but it's really also hard, you know, being part of the human condition is like wanting what you want, you know, and maybe that is ego, but that is hard to implement.
That one is very hard because we're invested in our need and why and our story and so much with all of that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it, Maureen. It's just a story. And I can change the story. I can rewrite the story. And I want to rewrite it. I want to rewrite one that's more empowering. And that is inclusive of all, not just me. That's my ego desire. That's my ego need. That I want them all to myself. Like,
so is that a little picture vision or a bigger picture?
It's a little picture, exactly.
Yeah.
When I truly understand that we are all connected, we are all one consciousness, then I want that piece of consciousness to be happy, regardless of if it's with this avatar or not, right? And I really get that on a being level. So I'm seeing this as a beautiful opportunity the universe is, or LCS is throwing my way to really integrate that intellectual component into my being level. But I keep having to snap myself back when I hear those old stories kicking in. Like, yeah, I just have to snap out of it.
This is like your test or your assignment type.
Yeah.
Because then now you have to live it, not to just thinking you have to live it, and it's hard. Part. It's a test. It's a test. Yeah. Yeah, that is that's exactly, you know, thanks for sharing that, Vanessa, but that's exactly what I meant. You know, when you say, you know, it's different on the intellectual level, you understand all that, but emotionally it's totally, you know, totally different, right? And what you do with those emotions, and that's the question, like, do you honor them and say, well, you know, this is the way I feel and it's okay, or like you know, that's another thing, you know, you've got to honor how you feel at that moment and not say, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. So, you know, it's all that. It's not just at the head level.
There's a phrase my master coach uses, and he says, honor your feelings, act on your commitments.
Right. Yeah, honor your feelings. You have to honor your feelings. Yeah, that's a very good quote, Daniel.
Yeah, so you're
honor your feelings, act on your commitments.
Yeah.
Right. And that's an internal job. It can be just internal, honoring your feelings, but acting on your commitments. Yeah.
Yeah, and your commitments. Well, you know.
Do you think we can ever get that selfless, Vanessa? Especially in a love relationship. I think. I don't know. It feels so removed. I don't know. For me, finding a balance between honoring my need and honoring his is about the best I can do.
That's unconditional love there, right?
It's unconditional love, yeah. And when I'm in that place of being okay with whoever he chooses to be with, whether it's me or not, when I'm in that place, really in that place, it feels amazing. It does. It feels really great. And then sometimes when I slip out of it, maybe if I've had a bad day at work or something, and then I start hearing these stories about, I think what it's doing is it's triggering that fear of inadequacy. It's like, oh, well, he doesn't want to be with only me, so must mean I'm not good enough, and that's what's coming up. If I didn't have that fear of inadequacy, I would still be okay all the time. There would be nothing to trigger, right? So it's showing me that fear and allowing me to release that fear so that I can be okay with myself. Yeah, I'm okay with what anybody else chooses.
So when you have these negative feelings, do you sort of say, like, if it says like, oh, I don't feel good enough, it goes, well, what if I am good enough? Ever thought of that before?
I don't. It doesn't come up that I'm not, that fear is so subtle that it doesn't come up. I never feel like I'm not good enough, but I know that must be the underlying fear when I start feeling like, oh, I want him all to myself.
Right.
I think that's what's showing up on the surface, but what's fueling that thought is the fear of not being good enough.
Right.
Why do I need him all myself? I don't need him all myself. It's only somebody who doesn't feel good enough would actually say something like that or think something like that. So, yeah, just looking beyond that, because whenever I see that there's a need there, I want to go beyond that and say, well, what's creating that need in the first place? If I'm consciousness, then I'm whole, I'm complete. There's nothing that I actually really need. Okay? There must be a lack. There must be a fear there that's creating this need.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, Vanessa, I know it's hard, but one of the things that come to mind is to say, I mean, for me, if something like that happens at the feeling level and you are feeling it, and you are feeling, maybe those feeling of not being loved or not being good enough or whatever, those feelings that come up, what helps me in those moments is maybe this is not the person or the consciousness I should be with right now. If it doesn't happen, maybe there is something else down the road for me. Like I don't know if that helps to tell ourselves those kind of stories when things don't turn out like we want. Like, if you want to be with a person, but you can't, or this person doesn't want with you at that time, does it help us? And I'm just generally, like, this is an example, but I'm talking generally. Does that help us to say, well, if this is not happening at that moment, maybe this is not for our highest good, and maybe because it's opening the door for, something else that I don't know, but that I trust will be for my good. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I totally know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying for sure. And I think that does apply in certain situations. Actually, the one just previous to this, it applied to her. No, and because I had that nudge, Nadine, I felt that, I heard that from the LCS. And it was metaphorically, but yeah, and it was, hey, don't go here because we're sending you something and you're going to get distracted here, so you need to let that go. And it's great.
Right, yeah.
And I did that, and I created space for this new opportunity for me to look at some new fears we have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. I totally digressed there. Maybe we should get back to
I think it's a great example.
No, that's actually.
It was a great tangent, Nelly.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of, I'm sorry, Nadine, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Have you ever heard of Tosha Silver? She's a writer that I really like what she writes. And she says she always has a really good Instagram feed. And one of the things that she posts is everything in life that's meant for you will find you. I feel like that's a nice saying. So it's going to happen,
Even the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but Vanessa, just to go back to that fear of being too intellectual with that book, when reading chapter 11, that's exactly what I start feeling, that, that's why I skipped and I tried to go to just the whole kind of picture, because I said, no, I don't think the intention here is to remain in our intellect, right? For that book. So I'm glad that you brought that, because I think that's kind of part of it, right?
Yeah. So if anybody else wants to talk about their love life, now's the time. If that's a no.
Well, I really liked what Daniel said, honor your feelings and act on your commitments, because, in a relationship that's going to bode very well for any of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, if something's happening in a relationship that consistently doesn't feel good, being selfless is just self-abuse. Recognizing, this doesn't feel good, and being able to make different choices is important in that instance. So, I really liked what you said, Daniel. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that too. Because you can't ignore your feelings, right?
No.
This is the way you feel at that moment, and you just can't say, I shouldn't be feeling them, because then you're kind of not validating them, right? You can't do that. You be in denial, and that makes people sick, right? You get sick if you always do that, right? So you have to say, this is the way I feel. And
there's unconditional love of others, and there's unconditional love of ourselves too.
Exactly.
Yeah. I went to a meditation last week, and it was the theme was on gratitude, and I love that teacher or the person and I went just because it was her. I had a course with her before, and that was not a course. That was just you go for an hour meditation. And I just don't know. I woke up and I said, "Oh, today it's Nicole's, because they take turn. And I want to go because I want to see her, and I I want that experience, with her." And I went, and that was the day that that week that hasn't been a good week for the health-wise. So I had to drag myself to go. And when she saw me, she said, "Oh my goodness, I was just thinking about you this week." It was just kind of, it was really interesting. And then the meditation was on gratitude, and the way she explored that in meditation is not just being grateful for the present moment, but being grateful for all the things that have happened in the past. And even if there are hard things, because you needed them, type of thing, and extend your gratitude to the future, that you don't know what's going to happen, but you're grateful because you extend it, because that this is going to be the right thing, type. I don't know how she worded it. She has her own way of but it was powerful, because this is what we are talking about, is whatever happens, if we can show gratitude, then we're okay,
I love that story, because it's something that she said and made you think about it. By you thinking about it, made you feel good. And by making you feel good, you feel gratitude amongst her, but it made your day probably feel even better.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Just that one little thought.
Yeah, exactly. And the connection without even, I haven't seen her for months, right? And it's just the connection at another level. But one of the things also that she's really strong on is to accept and honor and be grateful for your negative as well as positive emotions. She says you just cannot expect yourself to be all the time in a state of joy and all that, and you say you just have to honor it. It's all good, right? So anyway, it's
Have you guys watched that movie Inside Out?
Yep.
I haven't.
No. Okay.
Tell me a little bit about it.
It's a cartoon from, is it Disney? But it's about this little girl, how she was very happy, you know, enjoying life because she's with all her friends and everything, and then they had to move to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the world ending, and then
Mm-hmm.
and nothing turned out right for her, and she became very sad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the thing, I don't, but I'm not spoiling it for you guys, but what she realized was that, well, there's all these figures too, these different emotions. There's fear, there's joy, there's anger, and a few other ones. But what she realized that you can't be in joy all the time, right? And that was the ultimate requirement from joy, is that you have to be happy. You can't be sad. You can't be in fear. You always have to be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Joy realized that no, there are learning opportunities in each of these different emotional states.
Right.
So you know, there was one part of the scene where it showed her being sad, and then you know, Joy sees this through the virtual reality, I guess, or through her head, and noticed that, you know what, yeah, this is a learning example, right? It's okay to be sad. You have to be feeling sadness so that you could learn about that emotion, but then you get over it. What are you learning from this state of sadness, right? And then from that, pull yourself up and be back to joy again. Right? So that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a huge learning for me. But then all my clients, I said, if you haven't watched Inside Out, go watch it. So much from it about yourself, basically.
Wow.
Very, very wise man once said to me, "You may not always have what you want, Maureen, but you will always have what you need."
Yes.
Right? So when something smacks me upside the head, I'm like, okay, what did I need here? Right? Yeah. Oh, we always get what we need. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, this joy and sadness thing example, you know, because if you expect or want or that you have to be, you know, in that joy state all the time, I mean, this is not, you're going to be disappointed, right? So it's not, but by accepting, it's all about the acceptance too, is by accepting all the states, they make you appreciate, you know, the other, right? So
Yep.
it's all it's all about that. So it's sometimes we just put our expectation, you know, somewhere that is not
Real.
realistic, or it's not. I don't know if it's even healthy or helpful, because sometimes you need to go into sadness to really appreciate joy, like, you know, it's
So there's richness in sadness, or any of those negative quote unquote emotions. There's so much richness.
yeah, exactly. So
As long as you're learning from it.
as long as you're learning and it helps you move on, right? Yeah.
I've heard Tom say that sadness is just an aspect of love, right? So it's, you can feel sad, you can feel empathetic towards somebody, and that can feel kind of that can feel just sad. But that's not necessarily a negative emotion.
Pardon me.
On the other spectrum of love, because there's so much love and you want the situation to be to turn out well for people involved, but it's not turning out the way that it would most optimally be. And so you have this empathy and you just feel the pain, right? But that's not something that's negative that we have to try to push away. On the other hand, if we're feeling frustrated, angry, upset, or depressed, where we're like living in this really low, dark place, then that's something we want to transform. We want to learn from and transform. But that really helps me, because whenever I would feel sadness, I'd be like, oh no, that's high entropy. I don't want to go there. But now I'm like, no, that's an aspect of love. Allow yourself to feel it. That's okay. Cry if you need to cry. Let it out. It's all good. And now I can celebrate it, right?
Right.
That's a good point, because when you were saying that, I thought sadness, but then do we have to look at our state of consciousness? Are we at a higher level of consciousness or a low level of consciousness? If we're sad at a high level of consciousness, it's beneficial for us because we can learn from that. But if we're at a low level of consciousness, it's like, whew, it's gone, right? In and out one ear. And I still feel sad. Like, why am I sad? Like, you're not really learning as much from it.
Yeah, then it's more like a pity party. And
Yeah.
That's again all about me, and that's the ego.
Right.
But when you're about other and you feel someone else and what they're going through, yeah, that sadness is natural to come up if they're in a lot of pain. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But what's interesting is though I never see Tom sad, and I've been bawling my face off with him. But with him, it's more kind of like this amused, like he's just more interested because he's got such a big picture understanding. I think he can see like, oh, she's stuck in her little picture, and I'll just send her compassion and be here for her. But he doesn't ever cry. Like I've never seen him cry.
Gotcha. Okay, Vanessa, come on, just get over it.
That was good. That was a good aside. I liked our aside better than this book. Hey, Christine, remember Christine at TMI, she stood up and she was like, Tom, you need to write a My Big Toe for right-brainers. Like, actually, I'm working on that, right?
That'll be great. I'll help him if he needs help. Yeah, this is a good example of, I was like, I'm just not understanding the, like, I mean, I think we're actually fine here, but it kept going and going and going.
Do you think he's going to write, when he writes a new version, maybe he will just write it? It doesn't have to be 3 books.
Yeah, he won't. He's going to condense it.
He can condense it, I think, because he can repeat, but I think there is a way to condense it.
Do you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that today, Vanessa, because I was thinking about this as I was reading this chapter, right? I was thinking about that. And I think part of my interest in that is that when I read this material, I feel like I get lost in the words, right? And the repetition, right? And this is material that I've been interested in for a long time, and I'm clearly like well invested in it, right? But I can't explain it to anybody, and I would love to be able to, in a short and like a kind of well-spoken way, be able to explain it. I don't feel like I can explain it, you know? And even at the end of a chapter that's 20 pages long, I don't really get what I just read. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so dense.
Right.
Too many words. So that is and not just necessarily explaining it to somebody else, but feeling that I genuinely, at the being level, understand what I'm reading.
Yeah, before you came into the discussion, I said I wish at the end of each chapter there was a small summary paragraph.
Yes.
That's super, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then we can pull all of those little tiny paragraphs into one teeny tiny book, right?
Like an executive summary, right, for each chapter.
Yeah.
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 That's interesting that you bring that up, because that's something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. And I had a conversation earlier today with somebody else about wanting to create little snippets of My Big Toe that explain the concept in really easy to understand ways, right? So just and creating it in maybe like little. Have you seen that video that I made, Christine?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So like that, but different parts. So then that's an overview, right? And then I want to do one that talks about how your intent modifies future probability, and do it in like a fun little caricature, little animation video.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then do one on how your free will awareness unit, how it logs on to the data stream, right? And then show that, and do it in just like fun, playful ways for people to understand. Like Einstein said, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't know it yourself, right?
Right.
So
Right.
to be able to break it down and explain it in simplified ways. So if anybody else wants to work on this with me, let me know, because that's some ideas. And you're right. When and because when you explain it, you learn it more yourself. Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's very hard to explain to others. Very, very hard. Yeah. I agree.
Like, how would you explain it to any of you guys? Like, if you say, I'm reading this book, especially like you were saying, Nadine, that, most book clubs don't meet once a week, right? And so people will be like, what are you reading? And I'm like, well, like it's a really complicated book. It's a physics book, right? And then nobody else, they're not interested.
I know. I have tried to talk to many people. Say, do you know that Tom Campbell? I try to get them interested in the larger picture.
Right.
No,
I usually just tell people like
nobody has.
I usually point people to his YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because I'd like to have people learn about. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll discover something that they kind of enjoy, and then I can discuss it with them. But no, so far, no takers. But I keep on trying.
Look on the back cover. There's a couple of sentences there that are great. Look on the back cover of. I've got the trilogy.
Oh,
what does it say? I don't have the. I have my
Big Toe, written by a nuclear physicist in the language of contemporary Western culture, unifies science and philosophy, physics and metaphysics, mind and matter, purpose and meaning, the normal and the paranormal, the entirety of the human experience, right? Including both our objective and subjective worlds. It's brought together in one seamless scientific understanding. I mean, that's a lot to memorize, but if you could just sort of summarize something like that in a simple way,
yeah.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Another point too is it depends on who you're speaking to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
True.
If you're like know your audience. And again, make it about other. It's not about me and wanting to, shove this information down anybody's throat. It's about, well, is this even going to help you? I don't know. Let me get to know you a little bit. And then if I hear them talk about, even if they mention consciousness, or if they're an engineer, then I'll be like, oh my gosh, have you heard of Tom Campbell? And then I'll bring it in. But if they don't, if they're really, really right-brained and they've already got their own ideas, I won't even bring up Tom Campbell.
True.
I'm like, good. They're super right.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Meet them where they are.
Yeah. Meet them where they are, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the book. An hour left, and we're 5 pages in.
Good.
We're an hour and a half into the video.
Yes.
Okay. So what stood out from the aside was the part that you highlighted and you wanted to talk about?
From the aside?
Yeah, from the aside, which was basically the whole chapter, but
I don't know what page it is for you guys. Vanessa, for the two of us is 167.
okay.
I don't know if Christine knows, but I have something that I have highlighted. No. So it's
like 9 pages in. 9 pages in.
9 pages in, is that what it is?
And it starts with "and expanding your awareness" at the top of the page.
Yeah.
Okay.
What page?
9 pages in. Yeah, what page?
I don't know, for them, I don't know.
Oh, the page is 417.
417, okay.
Okay.
There are, well, actually, there's a few things on the other page before that one, but in...
I had something on the other page, too. What did you have on 416 or 166, Russ?
166, I had the third paragraph that started, in case you are wondering.
Yeah.
The capacity of the human consciousness is immense, yet we exercise only an infinitesimal fraction of that capacity. Our potential reigns far beyond our wildest dream. I like that.
Yeah. I like that too.
And then it says, unfortunately, and that's what we were talking about, the part of that potential we have intentionally actualized typically supports little more than the tedious soap opera we call real life. You know, he has a way with words, you know, sometimes that it just, you know, can't escape it. I mean, this is so true. So I like that.
I like
So, yeah. So, and on the other page, the next page, in the middle, the middle of the third paragraph, he said, learning, evolution, and growth, the steady decreasing of entropy, is impossible without the functional condition or attribute that we call free will. I think he's summarizing here. Are you beginning to see that free will, learning, and evolutionary growth opportunities are natural and necessary attribute of an evolving individuated consciousness? Consciousness cannot exist without the ability to make self-determined, self-modifying choices. Without free will, there is no consciousness. Without consciousness, there is no free will.
Yeah.
They cannot be separated. So, you know, there are different aspects of the same thing. So I kind of like that because for me, it summarizes a little bit the rest of the pages before. And they were it's very clear, like it's not, he made it like,
Yeah. So that is excellent. And just bringing it back to the point that you mentioned on page 416 or 166, how he's talking about, unfortunately, the potential that we've intentionally actualized just supports the little soap opera.
yeah.
I put in brackets there, until you see the big picture. Because when you see the big picture, you can move away from that soap opera and see it for what it is, which is just a little soap opera. And then you can start focusing on the bigger picture, on your mission and purpose.
Yeah.
So there is a solution to that.
Do you think that we can see the big picture from where we are? Our perspective?
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can only see it when we move out of the soap opera, right? If we're stuck in the soap opera, we're stuck in our ego and our fear and our needs and our desires. When we're stuck there, we can't see anything. Or we have that belief blindness that I'm right and my ego knows best.
Right.
So away from that, we can see the
Stuck
big
because of our mindset or beliefs. Right?
Well, so I understand what you're saying, Vanessa, where you're saying, okay, like if I'm trapped in my little drama, right, in my soap opera, and I step away from it, and I'm aware of the fact that it's just a soap opera, it's a play happening on a stage, right? But can you, even with that awareness, actually see the bigger picture, like know what it's about, other than which I think we're learning here, is that it's all of these dramas and whatever are learning opportunities, growth opportunities, right? But really, are we able to see like an overarching picture? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, and I feel like we can to certain degrees, right? So that's what evolution and growth is all about. At first, my big picture isn't really a big picture, but it's a little bit bigger than the soap opera. And then I'm able to get rid of some of the fear, and it opens up my decision space even more, and I can choose to see an even bigger picture. And then where that person's coming from and that person's coming from, it gives me an even bigger picture, and it just keeps growing and growing.
Well, it's like what we're doing now. We're sharing what we know. That creates a bigger picture. Maybe the next time we do this again, it becomes even bigger.
Yeah, I feel like totally it's growing. Like even just today, I'm like, wow, I'm learning so much right now. Just like listening and hearing different perspectives. It's, yeah, giving a bigger picture. I'm able to see a bigger picture.
Yeah, I think that's what Tom, for me, he brings that, and the repetition, he's right, helps in the book, because now I'm able more often to be able to see that I I am in a little picture, and I can get out of that little picture. You know, I have the choice here. I can see the way he described it. So for me, does it really matter if I know what is this big picture is all about? Like, you know, maybe I will never, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I don't think it matters, because I try to bring it to more a practical level. Like, what difference does it make in my life, right? For the quality of my consciousness, for the do I rather be trapped in a little picture, or do I want to see, oh well, there is a big, that he helps me get out of that, even if I don't have a grasp of the infinite big picture. Like, you know what I mean?
I think it's the experience that you have when you realize there is a big picture, because
Yeah.
that way you're not confounded by the little picture, the small mindset that you have, or the by being allowed to experience the like taking more risks, for example, you learn more, you grow more, and that's all part of the consciousness system, the ability to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people always say be the bigger person, right? I think what they're really saying is see the bigger picture.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it comes down to willingness to do it, to try it.
Having the courage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Christine, too, I think it's really simple, but we overcomplicate it. And this is what Tom was telling me when I was like, so the IUOC, and I was like trying to get it to understand. He's like, the big picture. And then he actually brought it back to that video. He's like, that video you made, that's great. That's it. Like, that's the big picture right there. That's all, you know, that's it. You don't have to get into all the little details. And so, and I think that can be even simplified even more, which is just for consciousness. Consciousness is fundamental. We are all consciousness. We're all connected. Our purpose is to evolve and grow. And we do that through helping each other.
Yeah.
I still want to do a huge diagram and look at each chapter and says, okay, how can we diagram this?
Ooh.
You have the LCS, which brings it down to the IUOC, and then you got PMR, NPMR, but you got subsets in each one, and
There's the left brain.
But you know, that's not going to change anything in our lives. I think the way I mean, I'd love to do it, but the way I see it is that how does this change the choices that you make and the awareness of those choices?
I think only you know what those are, right?
Yeah, exactly. So well, that's what I mean. Like, for everybody, I would say the choices that everybody makes. So by being aware and stepping back and say, okay, this is, you know, a soap opera here, or this is a little picture, it helps me. I think that's what I mean by that. It helps me when I have to make other choices, more conscious choices, right? And that's, for me, part of the big picture. It doesn't have to be the whole picture, but it's a bigger picture than being in the little small picture of, you know, the theater that we were talking about before, right?
I'm visual, and I think seeing a bigger picture of how this whole model works creates more awareness for me, and it's okay, where am I at in this stage of life, in this state of consciousness,
In that picture.
in that picture, right?
Yeah. Am I stuck identifying with the avatar role, or am I actually now aligned with the IUOC?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's helpful too. And that's what I was drawing for Tom. I was drawing that. Well, what I draw on the board in our Friday meetings, I drew that out.
Yeah.
Oh, Vanessa, he's like, you're getting lost in the detail. I'm like, people like it, Tom. They want to see this.
They do.
But no, you're right though. I think it is really helpful to get a good understanding of that, so then you can move forward like with your intuition. But first you got to take care of that logic, that analytical side that wants to know, right? So yeah, that's something we can work on, is creating a diagram, creating a graph, creating these visuals for people. I think it's really helpful. And doing one around the ego and the subconscious too. I want to make
I
one
love
for
that one. I really like that one.
That's the most important one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. How to get rid of the fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want a list of fears. I'm still after the master list, right?
I can
I'll
get
put
you.
it on- I'll put it on my-
I
That's one.
might be able to send you guys something.
Oh, I think that like the fear of not being good enough. Like if you, and there's probably only a few,
There's
right?
only a few, yeah.
There's
There's
only a
probably
few.
like 5, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can we can all print it out and put it on our fridge, and whenever we're having negative emotions, you're just like, let's match it up with the fear,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I do like lists and spreadsheets, but I feel like having a list would be very clear, right?
Would help you make relationship to what's happening for you in the list.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely that fear of inadequacy is a big one. And also fear of rejection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fear of not being loved,
Mm-hmm.
fear of abandonment,
Mm-hmm.
the fear of what other people think of you, right? How people are going to react towards you. Yeah. That's the whole public speaking thing. I don't want to public speak because what are they going to think?
So Vanessa, I think you said last time, if I remember, 90% of what we do or something, it comes from fear. Is that what you said?
That's what Tom has said in one of his videos.
Tom. Okay. So basically, if we look at what we are doing, that's when you find your fears, right?
Yeah.
According to Tom.
That's why it's so important to look at what is my real intent. Like earlier this call, when I was like, what's my intent there? Is like, what's my real intent, right? Yeah, because oftentimes what happens is our ego will come in and it will trick us, and I'll be like, oh no, I'm doing it because of this, but that's not really why. It's because of fear that's making you do it, right? Yeah.
Not the real reason, yeah.
Like for example, oh no, I don't want to go and give that presentation in front of 500 people because, I have this other commitment I need to do. Well, that's your ego. It's not actually addressing that you're afraid to do it. It's just your ego making something else up, justifying that you're right. You should go do this other thing, running away from the fear rather than facing the fear.
Yeah.
Right.
We have 15 minutes. Anything else that stood out in the aside?
So we skip to the end, to the not aside.
It's all repeating stuff anyways, right?
Yeah.
Repeating stuff in there so that you guys share. There's nothing else.
There's one part, I don't know where it is on your book, but he says combating ego with ego in a dogma fight is always a disaster for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when I look at that, I thought wars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even just any kind of disagreement that we might have.
Yeah.
Any disagreement that comes up in our daily life, that's ego and ego right there.
Yeah.
Can't not to see the other person's perspective and staying firm in my ability to be right.
Yeah. I always says put yourself in the other person's shoes and then see how that is. And then, what would that person say?
Mm-hmm. And people feel so seen and heard and understood for who they are when you are able to really put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Right? And understand where they're coming from.
Understand their perspective, right?
Yeah, yeah. And what's interesting is they usually let their barriers down and their guards down, and they stop being so defensive.
Yeah.
And then they warm up, and then things happen the way you wanted them to, and without you even trying to make them happen that way.
Yeah,
just by connecting with them.
Yeah.
It's really quite amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wanting to be right, which fear would be underneath that?
I always bring it back to not good enough, because if I'm wrong, that means I'm not good enough.
All right. Yeah. Also, I need to be right.
Fear of
Not-
rejection as well, though, right?
Pardon?
If you always want to be right, wouldn't there be a fear of rejection?
Rejection?
Rejecting your ideas. And if they reject your ideas, then what does that mean?
Well, when you say that, I think it's like if I'm not right, or why is it that what am I trying to say here? It's your ego again, where you don't feel like you want to be dejected or rejected because I'm always right. I'm more smart than you because I've gone to school longer. I've got all these good grades. I know what's right and I know what's better for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's covering up an insecurity of
It
inadequacy.
could be as well, yeah.
That arrogance, right? It's either you're super arrogant covering that insecurity or really timid and shy because you don't have a voice to speak your truth.
And that's usually part of your childhood experience as well, right? As you're brought up.
Yeah, but it's the same fear. It's covering the same fear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just coming out a different way.
Right.
Yeah, there's really not that many fears, like you were saying, Christine. Maybe a handful of them.
I'll see if I can find that list, and I'll upload it on the Slack.
I don't know, Daniel. Did you give us a list? Because I remember you give us a list. I remember of 10 fears.
Yeah, I gave you something, but I think.
Oh, I have them. Oh, you did? I wrote them down. I have them, but it's written with my hands, not.
It might be in the WhatsApp thing, and I might be able to pull it up there and upload it onto Slack.
I don't know, but yeah, you have listed 10.
Yeah, but I've got another one from my coaching practice where it actually goes into detail about each one.
Oh wow!
If I can find it, I'll bring it up. I haven't coached that in a while, so.
I did like one part from the aside where I guess it's page 179 for you guys. What would that be? 129 or 329?
So what
number was it for you? 179?
179, page 179.
179 for us, Melissa. Okay.
Yeah, for us, yeah.
How does it start? How does the page start?
Let's make a quick connection between free will and psi phenomena.
Yeah, that's 429.
429. Okay.
Yeah.
So the third paragraph down, second sentence, he goes, at the experiential level, imagine psi phenomena as a brightly colored flower, enticing those who have some potential to profitably understand it, and as a prickly, scary, or ridiculous weed to most others. Anyone can experience psi phenomena or psi effects. Many can wield the shadow of its power, but only those who understand it deeply can effectively use it as a springboard to significantly reduce their personal entropy and the entropy of the system of which they are a part. So I like that because when you hear psi phenomena, that's paranormal activity, right? That's the ability to be telepathic, to pick up on your thoughts and your feelings, the ability to remote view, or energy heal. That's all kind of psi phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how he's saying that some people are really drawn to it, but then other people are like, yeah, right, well, fuck you, that doesn't work, that's all information. But he's saying, though, that when you really understand the nature of reality, or when you understand this phenomena, when you really understand it, then you can use it to grow the quality of your consciousness, to improve the quality of your consciousness. And for me, that's to connect with people, to see where they're coming from, right? That to me is psi phenomena. It's not like remote viewing. It's not so much reading their thoughts, but it's reading their feelings, reading their intent, and just feeling where they're coming from. I feel like that connection helps me to grow and it helps them to grow. And the only way I grow is by helping others grow, and then we grow simultaneously, right? So I just really like that part of the aside. It wasn't so logical. For me, it was more intuitive and feeling-based. Did anybody have anything else from the aside before we go on to the end? I have a feeling we all highlighted the same part of the end. So, the last 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you guys have? Or was there anything? Or were you just like, oh, finally it's over?
I liked the last paragraph of the whole paragraph. Yeah, that was my favorite. I felt like he was telling us a secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to read it, Christine?
Sure. Because the experience of consciousness is essentially a personal one, the private message of My Big Toe is for you, dearest reader. Yes, just for you. The real power to effect significant positive change lies not with governments or professions, nor with science and the technology it spawns. The real power behind meaningful progress and growth at any level of aggression or what word is that?
Aggregation.
Aggregation or organization is the quality of the individual consciousnesses driving the action. Raising that quality can be accomplished only by the self-directed personal evolution of each individual. Clearly, the private message of My Big Toe is offered up for your personal use and benefit. Its potential value lies not in the words nor in the ideas presented. The potential of its value is the possibility of positively influencing the potential of your value, a potential that is profound and beyond estimation.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Chills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about, you know, that it helped us get out of our little picture, different choices, and the feedback and modifying. And just before that paragraph, before the end, because he was talking, you know, about how you know, science takes time, right? At the two last sentences of the page before, he said that is how science moves from concept to application very slowly and with cast of thousands. Increment by increment, discovery by discovery, the more people who gets involved and apply their brain power, the more quickly the train picks up speed. So, you know, he's talking about that process that takes so long, and it's so true. And then he goes on, and then the following paragraph, the three last sentences, nevertheless, by evolutionary design, movement toward profound shifts in widely held paradigm usually progresses slowly and with deliberate caution. Patience will always be a necessary virtue. I think I don't know, but the feeling I had when I was reading that, he's talking about his own maybe history of how he's trying to change science, and then it's taking a long time, and it's just how things work, right? It takes.
You know what? When I read that, I felt that very reassuring, because I feel like I get kind of frustrated with my own progress and making the same mistakes and doing the same things we were talking about before, you know, like just doing the same things over and over again. And then, you know, there's this little glimmer of light and you're like, oh, maybe I don't need to do that next time, you know? And so that change is very slow. And so I felt that was reassuring, and that,
things take time, right? Change takes time. Although he's talking here about the big picture and a shift in paradigm, I like, Christine, that you bring it up to our, you know, individual level and say for us too it takes time, right? Absolutely right.
That is.
I like that too. Sometimes I don't have patience with myself.
And I remember my brother asked me, him and his wife asked me about Tom Campbell. And I was like, oh, Tom Campbell, let me tell you about Tom Campbell. Like, he's created this unified field theory, something that Einstein could never do. And I was really enthusiastic about it. And then my brother's like, well, if he's done all this, why hasn't everybody heard of him? And I'm like, why hasn't anybody heard of him? Like, he's done something so amazing. But like you just said in that paragraph there, it takes time, you know, it's a slow progression. So.
And you know, especially with science, I know that Tom now is trying to get physicists, I think, to do some experimentation, right? And that's really key, because, you know, for those people, they have to have evidence-based research, and they have to, and that takes takes time. It's got to be done many times. It's got to be verified, and it takes. But I think he has a lot of patience. Tom Campbell himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's pursuing this. He has been pursuing this for how many years, Vanessa? Now, all his life.
Oh yeah. I mean, remember when he was in in college, in university school. That's when he started going to the Monroe Institute, and then he had Monroe as his personal mentor. That was in his 20s, right? Now he's in his 70s, so 50 years.
50 years now. So he's very patient because he knows that on the scale of history and evolution, 50 years is nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all a scale.
Yeah. So we have time on our side. So 4 minutes for our closing circle. Final thoughts, feelings, insights. What would you guys like to share?
I'm glad it's over.
Chapter or the book club, Daniel?
Chapter.
Right?
And I do feel a lot better about the chapter after we discussed it and I got like some perspective. I do feel a lot better. But but when I was by myself, it was the most challenging chapter, and now I don't look at it that way again. So I feel a lot more positive about that chapter than I was and at the beginning. So thank you, because has been quite challenging. I don't know about the next one. I hope it's not as challenging. Anyway,
The next one's little.
Yeah, we're gonna read 2, guys.
Yeah, I agree.
3 pages. In the other chapter, there are 3 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 46 and 47 for you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
So what are we doing? 12 and 13?
Yeah, it's called
The next 2 chapters.
Oh my goodness, 13 is very long.
Yeah, we're 29 pages ahead of us. So we'll get through as much as we can.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, it depends on the chapters, right?
Yeah.
So next week, is there? So I have a work thing next Thursday night. Is the book club at a different time because Daniel's famous? I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on a webinar or something.
Oh,
We start early, right?
That's right.
Start early.
So can we start earlier? Is that?
Yeah, we could start earlier. What time do you guys want to start?
Because I'm on this thing at 5.
Oh, I think we said 3. Oh, but you wanted to go even earlier, right?
2:45 or 2:30.
5? Okay.
Or 2:30.
Oh, wait, next Thursday? Oh, no, yeah, I can't even do it next Thursday. I'm taking the class into Prince Rupert.
Oh.
Yeah,
You want to skip it until the following week then?
Can we do it another day or another? Yeah.
Like any other day would work for me. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Does Wednesday work for you guys?
Let's see here.
How many pages have we got to read?
29.
Okay.
It won't be as condensed it won't be as heavy as the last chapter. That's for sure.
Okay.
Chapter 12 is really quick and simple.
Couple pages. I could do Wednesday.
Okay, does that work for you guys, Maureen and?
Yeah. Wednesday, same time.
Sounds,
Yeah, same time.
sounds good.
Okay.
45,
3:45.
perfect. Okay, great.
Is there a way to do it a bit earlier, or is it because of work commitment, or like if you start at 3 or something? No.
Yeah, I could. Well, I'm supposed to finish class at 4, but sometimes they wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine then. No, I knew it was for work, but yeah. Okay.
So Wednesday at 3:45.
Yeah.
3:45.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right.
Right on.
Ready? Get reading.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. This is great. Really good. I like how we didn't have to stay to the book so much. I felt more present with you guys and listening and hearing your perspectives because it wasn't so intellectual. We didn't have our heads in the book, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Really like the flow of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it depends on the chapter. Sometimes we're more into the book, and sometimes we, it's less. It's okay.
Yeah.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Yeah.
Go with the flow. Yeah. That would be ideal, right? Go with the flow.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you
Great.
next Wednesday.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you so
Everyone.
much. Good
Thank you.
night.
Bye.
Thank you. Night.